Hey, this is Scott here at FantasyAces.com, back to talk to you about the Week 5 matchups. Looking down at the teams that have off this week, we have the Rams that are off, the Jets are off, the Browns and the Raiders are all off this week, so get those players out of your lineups. Let's go to the 1 o'clock matchups for Week 5. We have the Titans against the Ravens. Really what you need to know there is that you have a great backfield in Chris Johnson and Lendell White. Chris Johnson is a stud, has Lendell breaking down defenses, and then he just kills them. Kerry Collins is making some great use out of McCarron's, but the main guy he likes to go to is Justin Gage. I think he's a big guy, big target. He's going to keep going back there. Let's look at the Ravens. McGahee banged up again, hurt the knee, hurt the eye. Now he's got hurt ribs. So we're going to have to probably see a little more of LaRon McClain carrying the ball. Flacco was impressive against the Steelers. Looking for him to make great use again out of his wide receiver, Derek Mason. Those two made a great connection this last weekend. Looking at the Chiefs and the Panthers, welcome back. Larry Johnson had a huge game this week, almost 30 carries, close to 200 yards. Looking great. Dwayne Bowe, Tony Gonzalez. Damon Ewert just does enough with this team, and that should continue here. Although they are going to Carolina, so we'll see how effective they are with the Panthers. On the other side, we've got DeLone pitching the ball to stud Steve Smith. Musa Muhammad, he's back. He's loving being back in Carolina. He had over 100 yards this week and a touchdown. So he's loving life. We've got the backfield tandem in D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart. Stewart's the guy you want there, getting the goal line carries, and I think he just continues to siphon more carries away from D'Angelo Williams. Let's look at the Bears and the Lions. Bears, we talked about Forte all season. He continues to be the main guy for the Bears. However, Kyle Orton looks pretty solid as well. He had almost 200 yards this past weekend and 3 touchdowns himself. Making good use of Brandon Lloyd, who is a little bit banged up. We'll see if he's able to come back. We've got Greg Olsen, we've got Desmond Clark, Rashid Davis. So that's a pretty solid team and a good defense there. Let's look at the Lions. Rudy Johnson gets the start over rookie Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith's not too thrilled about it, but it is what it is. Kitna seems like he's ready to go. He'll have Roy Williams and Calvin Johnson to throw to. Calvin's been great. We'll see if Roy can pick it up. He certainly has the talent to do so. Let's look at the Falcons and the Packers. The Packers defense is really banged up. Missing Cullen Jenkins. Tari Bigby's banged up. Al Harris is banged up. A.J. Hawk got banged up this week. So they may allow some running room, they've already allowed a lot of rushing yards this year. They may allow Michael Turner away from home to do some damage. Matt Ryan pitching the pigskin to Roddy White downfield should continue to be a nice combination as well. The Packers on offense, Ryan Grant's a little banged up. We'll see if Brandon Jackson, starts to take some carries there, or if Grant can get up to speed. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers banged up the shoulder last week. We may have to see Matt Flynn. I don't think so. I think Rodgers is going to try and give it a go, as it wasn't a separation, which will keep, the fantasy values of Donald Driver and Greg Jennings pretty high. Let's move to the next matchup. We have the Colts and the Texans. I like this matchup. Everybody on Indy should have a solid game. Manning, Harrison, Reggie Wayne, and Anthony Gonzalez. You got Dallas Clark at tight end. A die out of the backfield should have a solid game. On the other end, we've got the Texans. Shaw had a great game last week. Throwing it to Kevin Walter, Owen Daniels, Steve Slayton out of the backfield looks great. I'm just waiting for Andre Johnson to show up to the party. He hasn't been the stud that we thought he could be and that he can be. So see what happens there. He's got a lot of coverage rolled to his side. He's got to start beating that, though. We've got the Chargers against the Dolphins. Looking at the Chargers, a lot of people say LT doesn't seem the same this year, but he put up a great game last week against the Raiders. Should continue again this week. Rivers had his first subpar game. However, he still has all those targets in Chambers and Gates and Vincent Jackson, as well as LT out of the backfield. He should be fine. Looking at the Dolphins, you've got Chad Pennington throwing the ball. He likes to go to those tight ends because that's really as far as he can throw downfield. So Anthony Fasano should stay busy. Out of the backfield, we have Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams still sharing carries, but Ronnie looked great before the bye, having 5 touchdowns, a huge game. And Ricky felt the need, the desire to smoke weed over the break, over the bye week. So even though he didn't, so he says, that makes me a little bit nervous as well. I think Ronnie Brown starts, to step up there big time. The Seahawks against the Giants. Seahawks getting healthier here now. We've got Matt Hasselbeck really working without a lot of help. Now he's going to get Deion Branch back. He's getting Bobby Ingram back. Should get Maurice Morris back. So this offense is getting healthy. Should put up some nice numbers against the Giant defense there, who are going to be without Plaxico Burress. So they're going to have to depend on Toomer and Hickson and, a couple of guys. Steve Smith. It's going to be Kevin Boss. Out of the backfield, we've got Jacobs sharing it with Ward and Ahmad Bradshaw, so that's, we're going to see. It's a tricky situation. Should be a good game. We have the Redskins against the Eagles. Redskins, huge win last week against the Cowboys. They're going to come into here hoping that they can maybe take some control of this division. Eagles losing last week. They're going to want to come in here, off the big loss to the Bears last week. So, but they may be without Westbrook. So we'll see what happens. McNabb will have to go all over the place to those wide receivers. Deshaun Jackson, Reggie Brown is back. The Eagles, the Redskins have Clinton Portis, who's running all over the place. Santana Moss is a stud of a wide receiver. Campbell's looking more efficient and looking better, as well as Cooley at tight end. Let's look at the 4 o'clock games. We have the Bucs and the Broncos. The Bucs should be able to run the ball very effectively with Ernest Graham and work done against the Broncos. Greasy will have his little passes here and there, but it'll be the running game that does the talking on the defense. Let's look at the Broncos. We have Brandon Marshall's a stud. We know that. Cutler will be throwing to him all over the place. Eddie Royal will be pitching in as well. Scheffler at tight end. The backfield's a little bit of a mess with Selvin Young and Andre Hall and Pittman. And Ryan Terrain will be back in a couple of weeks, so that'll make it really ugly. Let's look at the Bills and the Cardinals. Bills with Marshawn Lynch, Trent Edwards, and you've got Lee Evans on the outside. And their solid defense. That's all you really need to know there. Looking over at the Cardinals, Bolden took a huge shot last week, but other than that, we had 300-yard receivers. Bolden had over 100 yards. Steve Breston, Fitzgerald, great wide receiver core. Warren's throwing it all over the place. And then you have Edge and Timothy Hightower out of the backfield. So solid offense. Let's look at the Bengals and the Cowboys. Chris Perry running the ball. He seems to be the only guy there. They also just signed Cedric Benson. We'll see what he's going to bring to the team. Palmer's throwing the ball. Majorly T.J. Houshmandzadeh. I don't know what Chad Johnson's going to really offer here. Let's look at the Cowboys. Cowboys should kill the Bengals this week. Everybody on the Cowboys team is playable. Hopefully Tio just shuts his mouth and plays like we know he can, and can be effective, and the Cowboys should be just fine. We have the Patriots against the Niners. Patriots coming back off the bye week. We'll see what they've planned for Castle. Try and scale the offense down a bit, make things a little bit simpler. Backfield's a mess with Maroney and Sammy Morris, Lamont Jordan. It's crazy over there. See if Moss can be useful on the outside. Welker on the short passes. Let's look at the 49ers. We've got Frank Gore out of the backfield. Bryant Johnson was a little banged up last week, didn't give it a go. Arnaz Battle had to be the guy. Also looking at J.T. O'Sullivan's looking pretty solid, so we'll see if that's able to continue against the Patriot defense that hasn't played as well as it has in the past. Let's look at the Sunday night game, Steelers against the Jaguars. Steelers going to be without Willie Parker again. Rashard Mendenhall out for the year, broken shoulder bone. So now we're going down the depth chart, looking at guys like Mewalde Moore. May even get Gary Russell off the practice squad. Carey Davis. They're looking at even signing Najee Davenport back, which could be big fantasy news there. Ben Roethlisberger spends a lot of time running from defenders, but he's using Hines Ward, Heath Miller, and Santonio Holmes on the outside. We'll see what kind of game this turns into. It could be an ugly defensive battle. Jaguars on the other side, Maurice Jones-Drew. You've got Fred Taylor around the ball. See how effective they are against that tough defense. You've got yourself David Garrard. He's throwing the ball. Matt Jones using him as a great weapon. We're trying to see what else can develop there with Jerry Porter in his first week back. Hopefully he's more useful. Let's look at the last game of the week in Monday Night Football. We've got the Vikings and the Saints. Adrian Peterson's all you really need to know there. Farrat's throwing the ball better than Tavares Jackson, but there's nothing really out there you're looking at. Maybe Berrien, but not too good. The Saints, we're looking at Reggie Bush. McAllister's back and running up the middle. 20 carries last week. He's looking solid. That's a nice thunder and lightning combination there. Lance Moore, big-time receiver in Colston's absence. And you're also looking at guys like Meacham out there. So that should be a pretty explosive game as well. Those are our Week 5 matchups. We'll see you again next week.